In business, you're either growing or you're dying. In today's episode, the two Business Guys Mastermind on how to get exponential growth in your business. Enjoy. This business podcast, the two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome back. Well, guess who's back, everyone? Yes, you said Rob is back. He took a little time off. I hope you guys, had a chance to see, Kier Allen step in for him and guest host. It was a really, really good time. But today's episode, welcome back, Rob. How was your birthday?
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was great. I got to enjoy family and friends and just relax. I appreciate the birthday wishes from everybody out in the inner world who reached out to me. Right, the digisphere. So I appreciate y'all. Yeah, it was a good time.
Well, all right. And today we're going to be talking about exponential growth, right? We got to get outside of that linear thinking and get into exponential thinking. It'll change your business. Trust me when I say it'll change your business, because you'll be thinking in a whole different way. But before we get started, I want to have a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor today is Malamaya Juice Bar, the only place where you can get juice that makes you feel like jamming. Malamaya Juice Bar, the only place you can get juice that makes you feel like jamming. Take a look. This is your favorite podcast host, Randy O. And I don't know about you, but this is how I feel when I take a sip of Malamaya juice. To get your juice that makes you feel like jamming, go to malamayajuicebar.com. All right, so let's get into the show. So, Rob, when you were thinking about this exponential growth, now I've got my own story, and tell us a little bit about what does exponential growth even mean?
Yeah, now this is a concept that for me, I can't explain how much of a game changer it was. And so I'll give a little bit of background for my journey and then kind of go into what exponential growth is and what we're talking about for today. So I'm a linear person, right? I am a planner. I like to look down the street, around the corner, and all the rest of that. But when I was growing up, what I could see was 1 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 3 + 1 = 4 + 1 = 5, right? Like I could see that type of path. If you do this action and this action happens, this reaction, right, straight in a line. And I kept hearing people talk about this whole thing of hockey stick growth and compounding interest and exponential growth and all the rest of that. And it sounded great, but it didn't seem practical. And that was the thing that for me was really difficult to conceptualize. And it really limited my ability to dream, right? My dreams were always, or not even my dreams were always big, but my belief in the fact that I could actually achieve them was always rather muted because of the way that I was thinking linearly. And so the whole idea of exponential growth, right? When you look at math, and this is probably the easiest way to do it, arithmetic or linear growth is 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 to infinity, or 1 + 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 + 5 to infinity. It still grows at a constant rate, right? But exponential growth is the concept of 1 + 1 is 2, and then 2 + 2 is 4, and then 4 + 4 is 6 is 8, and then 8 + 8 is 16. And it's this idea that you can, right? It's kind of when, if you ever done squares, right? Exponential growth is numbers by squaring. And what you start to see really quickly, 1 squared, still 1, right? 2 squared, it's not that big, it's 4. 4 squared, 16. It's still, not super huge. But then you get to 5 squared, it's 25. 6 squared is 36. And now you're starting to jump. And then once you get to 10 squared, right, you're only at 10 numbers, but you're exponentially growing at this crazy rate. And very quickly, the tail end of that exponential growth is where all of the amazing stuff happens. And the favorite story that I love to use to kind of describe this is the conundrum that people give, where you say, would you rather have $1 million in your pocket right now, or would you like to have a penny that doubles every day for 30 days?
Right.
Now, for the longest time,
you couldn't get that math in your head, could you?
Couldn't get the math in my head. And then I even started thinking about, but no, I still want the million, because then I could invest $1 million. And so here, I want to break this down for y'all just really quickly, right? Because the whole concept is $1 million right now. Let's take the best investment you can think of. Let's put it into a real estate flip that flips, and you make 100% on that $1 million in 30 days. If you make 100% on that $1 million in 30 days, you have made $2 million. So you took that million and you turned it into 2. Great job. You'd still lose, because that penny that doubles every day for 30 days will be $5.4 million at the end of that 30 days. I just want you to let that sink in for a minute. $5.4 million at the end of 30 days. And here's the part that's really going to bug you. It's not more than $10,000 for the first 20 days. So for first 20 days, you're sitting there and you're looking at it and you're like, I should have took $1 million, right? Even after week 1, you only then got to about $1 and some change. After 10 days, you only got to about $100, right? But wait till day 24, day 25, day 26, day 27, day 28. 90% of the growth that happens in that penny happens in the last 5 days.
That's right.
And that's the key. That's the understanding of exponential growth. And that's why you can once you get this, right? Einstein said compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world.
Compounding effect.
Right? Once you get that, once you understand that, you realize how important it is to be consistent, how important it is to understand the value of time, and how important it is to be comfortable starting small, but being consistent with that small growth, right? James Clear, and he wrote the book Atomic Habits. He talked about it like this. You got to understand the power. I
have not read that book yet.
It's a phenomenal book.
I've read around it.
Yeah.
Right. I've looked at it, saw some YouTube stuff, kind of went in and did not read it.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. You'll really like it. I know you'll come away with like 50 note cards. I just know you do a whole series on that book alone, right? And one of the things that he puts in the book, and again, it's just another example. I want y'all to go look at some of these on YouTube on like, just look at examples of compounding interest. There's a couple of different things that we talk about: the domino effect, the compounding effect. You'll see some stuff that I've done on that. You'll see some stuff that Randy's done. You'll see some stuff out there, but this last thing is so powerful, the power of 1%. Because a lot of times, what I used to get caught up with is I used to feel like I had to do big things, right? In order to change where I was, I had to do this amazing feat. I had to put in all of this hard work. And so I would work really hard for a short period of time. And then when I didn't get the results that I wanted, now I'm trying to find something else. Now I'm moving on to the next thing. Now I'm next shiny object, because I'm thinking in my mind, I've got to put in a lot of energy for this thing to happen. And when I started to understand the power of 1%, changed the game. So what James Clear talks about is this, right? And there's a number of different examples he gives. He gives one, the Great Britain cycling team, right? Tour de France and all the rest of that. They have been in the doldrums. They had always been like, out of the top 10 in Tour de France and all the rest of that. And the new coach came in and they wanted to make everything in the program 1% better. And the whole idea was, we're going to make everything 1% better every day, right? So they look at the program, they make stuff 1% better. They didn't improve stuff dramatically, but they went, and by the time they got done doing what they had done, they were winning Tour de France left and right, and they were, top four
1%
riders,
better
all that type of
every
stuff.
day.
1% better every day. And here's the math on that, just so that you understand how powerful it is. If you can improve yourself 1% per day for 365 days, right? Linear thinking would say, well, if I can be consistent, I'll be 365% better, which is about 3 times as good as you were, right? At the beginning of the year to the end of the year, you'd improve about 3.5 times. That's what conventional wisdom will tell you. But the math is actually that if you can improve 1% per day for 365 days, you will have improved 3,700%. You will be more than 10 times better than you thought you would be in linear thinking. And that's the power. The understanding that exponential growth far outstrips what you can conceive of from a linear standpoint. And that's the thing that allowed me in business to now set goals and set goals about being consistent, because the longer I'm consistent in stuff, what starts to happen is that gets easier and easier, and you start making money without thinking about it. You start making money in your sleep. There are things that you do that just by getting 1% better at stuff, you start making 10x more money than you were making before, 30x more money than you were making before. That power is crazy. And so I'll leave it there, but I want to hear your story, Randy. So talk to us about how you came to the understanding of compounding interest.
I tell you, it was a book that changed everything for me. Is this book called Bold? Right now, this book is by Peter H. Diamandis, and Stephen Kotler. Right, and
Stephen Kotler, I like him.
Yeah, I mean, just a brilliant guy, right? And what they talked about was, and it's an amazing thing, right? Chapter 1 starts off, goodbye linear thinking, hello exponential. Now he's got the abundance 365, he's got all these different things, but his whole big deal is, if we can think exponentially, then we can create exponential things. Now we're going to utilize technology to get there. And if you can utilize technology to get there, then you will outstrip these linear thinking companies, right? So I says, okay, I'm going to apply some of this stuff, right? Because I love to take a book and says, okay, how can this book make me bucks? How can I use this stuff, right? And I says, all right, Peter, I'm going to use it. I started releasing a product every week. Now I thought, I was an anomaly. I'm thinking, and it got to the point where I was releasing so many things. But the key is I wanted to produce consistently, and then at a point curate it, right? So it was the consistency, like it was the compounding, it was the learning. And then I got into a mode where for 20 straight weeks, I released a new digital product. Now the key is, because they were digital, right? And I'm your digital real estate dude, right? I says, if I continue to do this, and I was able to look back and go, okay, for my company, I was able to create these different products. Now I can go curate those products. And from that foundation of having curated or having created, and now being able to curate, I could take so much information. And then for the next months of that year, I could literally break these apart, right? I can repurpose this. I can add this to that. And the key is the consistency, the compounding of doing something, right? And that for me was my exponential moment. It was like I could release a product a year, linear thinking, or I can say, no, I think I'm going to release a product every week. And that makes you think differently. It makes you move differently. It makes you corral your resources differently. It makes you have to go out and get help.
Yes.
Right. And then now it was like, oh my gosh, I got all these products, right? I was able to put them on different websites, put them out there. They're making money out there like little mutual funds. Right. And then every now and then I bring one in and I go, how else can this, or what else can this be? Right. Yep. You've heard us talk about that. What else can your business be? So when I think everyone is thinking in a non-linear way, then they can look at their business, right? Whether you're just starting off, and I'll tell you a little story about another project that I'm starting off, and now I'm applying what I have learned from, guess what? Doing something consistently, that compounding, that curating, to now be able to go to this new business and go, all right, the business is saying, hey, look, this is already happening out there. I just need you to put whatever you put on it, right? And now bring in all those other experiences, right? But I'm curious about something. I'm curious about when we think about this exponential growth thinking, right? We think about that. People aren't always used to doing it. How does someone come out of their habits? How do they come out of the habits of thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, and now into thinking 1, 2, 30, 70, 90? How does that happen?
Right. I think that that's a really good question, and it's not easy. And so for those of you all listeners that are out there that are like, I've tried this before and I haven't made it, it hasn't been able to work, or consistency is so hard. There's a couple of things that I want you to think about, right? One, get perfection out of your mind. Right? A lot of us struggle with trying to do things perfectly. And the whole idea of doing things perfectly is based on the fact of it's based on the foundation of linear thinking, because with linear thinking, you think if I miss one, then it sets everything back and therefore we'll never get there, right? But what you have to understand with exponential thinking, and especially when we're talking about habits, when we're talking about training the mind and training the body to do certain things, the beauty of it is, and they've done a number of studies on this. First of all, the first study is that it takes about 67 days or so to take a new behavior and turn it into a habitual behavior. So to take something that you're not used to doing and turn it into something that you don't even have to think about doing, you just do kind of automatically when a trigger happens, when you see the time for it, right? So if you think about something like saying affirmations in the morning, or you think about something like paying your bills on the 13th of the month, or whatever the case may be, right? All of those types of things, they take about 67 days, 67 instances, right? 67, that's the time period that it takes for your brain to develop the pathways to make it automatic. But here's the beauty of the study, right? And I tell my students this all the time. You don't have to be perfect for the 67 days. You just have to be persistent. You have to make sure that over the course of the weeks in that 67 days, you've got to do the thing consistently enough so that your brain continues to write those pathways. So it's not one of those things where every day for 67 days, you have to do this activity. As a matter of fact, you can miss a couple of days a week and still get the habit. But here's the thing that I want you to pay attention to. What you cannot do is do the thing perfectly for 30 days and then not do it at all anymore and think that it's going to become a habit. And that's where so many of us, I know this is where it was bad for me. I would push, and I'm good for a week. I'm good for 2 weeks. I mean, I'm perfect. Everything locked in, doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, something happens in life, or I'm not seeing the results that I want to see. And so I start getting disappointed and I start getting discouraged. And then I say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. And then after I miss one day, because I missed one day, now you start beating yourself up, and you start getting down on yourself. You start saying, oh, well, I guess I missed a day, so I guess I'll never be able to get back on it. The most important skill that you need to learn is how to get back on the horse after you have fallen off. I don't care what it is that you're doing. Once you fall, once you don't do it, once you don't make the calls, once you don't put out the ads, once you don't put out the product, it's what you do in that week when you fail that determines your ability to be successful.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. It was said a different way, but it's not what you do. I think they said it like, and I'm paraphrasing terribly here. It's not what you do. It's the power in, and the success comes in what you do after the day after you have fallen, or something like that. I can't remember. I don't know if it was from The Power of Habit. That book was powerful too.
Yes, Charles Duhigg.
Yeah, Charles Duhigg just knocked it out of the park on that. But I mean, as you guys are listening into this and you're taking your notes and pulling away from what we're talking about and being able to very easily apply it to your own situation. Obviously, it's the consistency, but when we're talking about the topic at hand, the exponential growth and how you get to it by breaking the habit of linear thinking. Right now, I had to read a whole lot of books on, coming out of a certain mindset. I would read Lateral Thinking by De Bono. I would, all these different books that kind of help you see things in a different way, right? So, and then that would allow you, of course, to get to the groundwork that allows you to see exponentially, right? And that's what the key part of it is, setting the groundwork for your growth. Right. And once you do that, keep in mind now, you got your digital products out there. Some may be selling, some aren't, maybe not selling, but you set a groundwork and you set a habit. So you can go after you curated and brought some things in and fixed some things and done some things and put them back out there. You now know all you got to do is flip the switch and turn that habit back on because, the brain says you've done it before. You were very successful at it. So there is no problem.
Yeah, it's like riding
Let's just
a bike.
get to it, right? That muscle memory happens. So business muscle memory, let's call it that. Business muscle memory.
Yeah. So I want to ask you something though, Randy, because I think a lot of times we go in because you love to read, I love to read. We're always consuming information, but there's a lot of people that are also out there and they're feeling like man, but I don't have time to read all the books that y'all read. I don't have time to do all the rest of that type of stuff. If there was something that we could kind of distill from what we have read, from what we've learned, from what all the stuff that you've seen, all the stuff that you've been in, what's the thing that you would say is the most actionable component of that? What's the thing that if you take from Charles Duhigg and Stephen Kotler and all of that group, what's the thing about exponential thinking that you say is kind of the first step, the first thing that you've got to figure out for somebody? What would you say for that?
That's a good one. See, the first thing you have to do, and now you're talking about taking this concept, the exponential concept. Is that
right? And breaking that habit. One of the things you said was, you got to break the habit of linear thinking. What's the first step in breaking the habit of linear thinking? Like, what's the thing they can do today to break that, to start breaking that habit?
That's good. I think just pretty much getting outside of your comfort zone enough, right? That you do something that is related to non-linear thinking, right? Something super simple. Walking up some stairs, don't just do one stair, do two. Now you go, well, that's a physical thing. Yes, it is. It's just one thing, right? It gets you saying, well, if I just took two stairs, it doesn't take much more energy. It doesn't take a new posture. It just takes me deciding on taking two stairs. You're going to get up there faster. You're going to get in health faster. Because it's going to make you work a little differently. Right. So now that's just one thing, and maybe totally not on topic, but the point is that if you start doing these small things in your business, it's like, now I can do this particular job, but what if I called up someone and partnered with them, collaborated with them? Could that lead to potentially an exponential part of growth? So that is a new way of thinking, right? I was talking to a guy the other day and he says, hey, man, and I was telling him, he was like, I got this idea. And he says, but I need money. I says, dude, if you've got the right idea, money will follow you.
Find you, right?
Right now, and this relates to what we're talking about, doing something differently. He wasn't aware of this. I says, here's a couple of things you can do to not only validate your idea, but also get money. I said, enter contests. He hadn't thought about that. I says, there are probably 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 contests here in the Grand Rapids that you could literally enter to win. We're going, one is going to be next week with the 100 ideas, Star Garden's 100 ideas, right? You've got these entrepreneurs that are going to have an opportunity to win. Get this, everybody, $20,000, right? So you're going to be 5 of them. They're going to win $20,000 each, right? 100 ideas, $100,000. You get it, right? You got to pitch it in 100 minutes, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, I says, enter a contest. You're going to get some free marketing. And I said, you're going to get a chance to win and you're going to get practice. So now think about what we just said. You're going to be compounding activities.
There you go.
Compounding activities, all with the idea of getting to the problem that you say you had. I don't have any money. I says, no, you got money's everywhere.
Right.
Right. Do you have a financeable or fundable idea?
Exactly.
So here's some of the steps. Now, think about what I just said there. Go out and do something outside of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Get aware. In this particular case, he's getting aware that, oh, I didn't know these existed, right? Because he's doing other stuff. I says, get past that worry somebody's going to steal your idea. And what I said to him, I says, hey, man, look, if you don't have an idea worth stealing, you don't have an idea.
There you go.
It really comes down to that. If nobody says that's a good idea, then you don't have an idea that anybody cares about. You're not solving any kind of problem. Exactly. So that's one of the things I think is just take a first step, 2 steps to start training yourself, whether it is a stair or whether it is going out and finding an area that is unfamiliar to you.
I like that. Getting out of your comfort zone and getting and understanding that linear thinking is comfortable and just getting yourself used to being out of your comfort zone, because that is something that's so important. Exponential thinking is not going to be comfortable for linear thinkers in the beginning, and not for a long time, actually.
I've got some clients that are brilliant linear thinking, linear thinkers.
Yeah. It's not comfortable because it feels unpredictable. It's not really unpredictable. It's just predictable in a different way. And that is discomforting for a lot of people. And I think one of the reasons that is discomforting also is, like, in popular culture, we've heard the overnight success, right? The one hit wonder,
that practice for 10 years before that.
That's the very important part, right? A lot of times what the narrative that people will say is they just popped up. They just showed up. Oh, one day it just was amazing. And that trains us and conditions us inappropriately, because that's not how anything happens, right? It's like the story of the bamboo farmer, right? And so the bamboo farmer, I love it. Yeah, Les Brown tells this story, and he tells it way better than I'm about to tell it. So go look on YouTube, look up Les Brown bamboo farmer, and it's amazing, right? But one of the things that he says is, the bamboo farmer goes out, and for 5 years, he will water and weed and till the ground for his bamboo shoot, which will grow 6 inches in 5 years.
6 inches in 5 years.
6 inches. And every day he'll go and he'll water and he'll take care of it and everything else. But here's the interesting thing. After those 5 years, in a period of about 6 weeks, that bamboo will grow 90 feet. So from 6 inches to 90 feet in 6 weeks. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself is, did that bamboo grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 90 feet in 5 years? And that's the thing that so many of us don't understand, is that what's happening that you can't see when you don't see the growth on the top. What's happening with that bamboo is that during the period of time for that first 5 years, it's growing under the ground. It's growing, and it's creating a root system that's going to be strong enough to support the exponential growth that's about to happen. And the bamboo farmer understands that growth cycle. And that's the reason why he's able to be diligent and consistent about watering and about tending to the plant. And he understands that he's not doing it in vain, because he understands the growth cycle. But for so many of us, because we have linear thinking and we haven't actually looked at stuff, right? You think about it. There was a book that I read. I can't remember the author's name, but he said the book's title was The Difference Between Millionaires and the Middle Class. And one of the things that he talked about was the middle class, right? And from poor to middle class, we think in terms of
what is this going to
our
cost?
Next meal, our next day, our next week, our next paycheck, or at best month to month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that is one of the reasons why the middle class struggles with gaining wealth and developing business ideas and all the rest of that type of stuff. Because when you can only look in month to month cycles, you can't see the process that it takes for something like a business to grow, for something like exponential growth to happen. But what he says is that millionaires think year to year. So what they look at is, oh, I made $50,000 this year. We're going to try to make $100,000 next year. Exponential growth, right? And then $100,000 the year after will turn into $500,000. Exponential growth.
And that brings me to a thought, Rob. It just brings me to a thought. And another thing that this may not be the same book, or it may be the same book. We read a lot of the same stuff, right? And he says, people that are thinking differently. Now, this is an exponential thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. He says people that don't have that growth mindset, or not, or thinking linear, are thinking, what does this cost me? Mm-hmm. Right? Of everything, what does that cost me? Whereas other people that are thinking exponentially are saying, the millionaires or whatever it is, right? They're thinking, what can I make from this? That's one little thing that you could change that will, I'm telling you, it'll start changing how every fiber of your being. Because if you start looking at it from that lens, you're looking at it from the standpoint of not a cost anymore, but an investment opportunity, right?
Exactly. What can I gain?
What can this make? Yeah. I started doing that on everything. Right. In some of the other programs I have out there, the Monetize Your Life program, I talk about this. I says, listen, if anything is costing you something, then we're going to ask ourselves that question.
Yes. Yes.
What can this make me back?
There's one thing I want to throw in there, though, because I know for me, I was always a dreamer, and I would run into resistance with that thought. And so if there's any of you all out there that what Randy just said, you're like, yeah, but that feels like your head's in the clouds and you're not paying attention to the practical realities of everything. I want you to think about that. I feel you. I was you. I understand exactly where you're coming from. Here's the nuance in that statement that makes what he just said so profound. He's completely right. You have to be thinking about it from the what's possible for me to gain. You have to be thinking about it from the what if it goes right perspective instead of the what if it goes wrong perspective. But the way that you bridge that gap, at least for me, the thing that works for me was I didn't go and listen to the true Hollywood story version of, people's struggles. What I went and watched was stuff like Driven, stuff like Unsung, stuff like the things that actually showed you the story of the grind, the story from the person's own words or from a narrator's words. But what I started doing was watching the stories and listening to the stories of people who had made it and them talking about the grind to making it. Because what you get to see when you listen to that grind is you get to see that they had to persevere and they had to continue having that mindset of this is going to work, even when they didn't know. But and what you see is a commonplace in all of those stories is it is the fact that they've just outlasted. They outlasted their competitors, and that's why they stayed. That's why they made it. It's about what can you do to continue making it through the race. And I'll give you one last example. When I was training for my marathon, right? Crazy thing about a marathon is it don't matter how fast you run mile one, it's still 26.2 miles, right? And when I was training and I was pushing myself, just trying to run harder, run faster. That was what I was doing originally. And what I realized was in training that way, and I remember this like it was yesterday, I had ran 10 miles, which at that point in time was the furthest I had ever run in my life. And I had ran that 10 miles at a quick pace. My body was good. But mentally, I got to that 10 miles and I was like, if I was actually running the marathon, I would have 16 more miles to go. And mentally, I was like, I ain't got 16 more miles in me. Physically, I got 16 more miles in me. Mentally, nah. And I realized in that moment that what's more important than how fast you go is how long you can stay mentally engaged. Because you have to remember what the goal is. The goal is completing the race, right? And there's an old scripture that says this exactly. And so, there's nothing new under the sun. I ain't making up. This ain't amazing wisdom from me. But here's what it says: the race is not given to the swift, nor to the strong, but rather to the person that endures to the end. Mm. And what you have to understand is that exponential growth is all about staying in the game long enough for the exponential growth to take hold. Because once it does, watch out, you about to be on a ride.
Then you become that overnight success after 10 years.
Yes.
Right? We've seen it so many different times. I like something I read, and again, I'm paraphrasing badly here, but in Jay Sam's latest book, he said the insight and perseverance is going to be the thing to make you successful. Right. And I like to, take that and standing on the shoulder of giants and say insight and persistence will make you rich. Right. It'll make your business better, but you got to start thinking a little differently.
Yes.
Thinking exponentially. Right. And there's a lot of different things. This is going to involve using some tools. This is going to involve using some digital tools. Right. Now, here's one thing that you know how Ayana Van Zant had her show, right? Ayana Fix My Life.
Fix My Life. Yeah.
Rob and I have Fix My Business. Randy and Rob Fix My Business, right? Yes. So if you want us to come in and help fix your business and get you into some of this thinking, get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us through Business Guys Mastermind at gmail.com, or you can just find us. We're everywhere, right? So you can just say, hey, look, I need you guys to come in and fix my business. Help me think exponentially, right? And get out of this linear thinking. I've got degrees in organizational development, master degrees in organizational development. Rob's got 1 million degrees and has done a lot of different things. We can help you fix your business, right? And get you into that exponential thinking realm. So you can start making massive profits, not linearly, but exponentially. If that's what you want for yourself, go ahead and get in touch with us.
Yeah. And more than the degrees that we have, we've got a whole bunch of business failures and lessons learned that we can help you to get through where you're going through. Because if you think about the business mistake, I won't speak for Randy, because I know that he's a lot better at business than I am. But if you think about the business mistake that you're thinking about, trust that I done probably made it. So I can tell you how that story ends.
And that's a great thing, right? So listen, everyone, we hope that in this short time that we spent today, that you're able to pull some pieces right now. If that means you're going to be inspired, okay, that's fine. If that means that we have given you something that helps you become more motivated, that's fine. If we've given you something that you go, you know what, that's an aha moment for me. Leverage that aha moment. If you disagree with us, put it in the comments. Hey, you guys are full of canal water. That's not how it works. We don't, come in and talk to us about this. If you have some other comments that you want to make about your business, go ahead and leave those in the comments. Smash the like button. We want that too. We want our show to reach wide so that people can hear the stuff we're talking about. They can look at us and go, if those two dudes can do it, I can do it. Right. Exactly. So we'll see you on the next round of talks, everybody. And in the meantime, we wish you well in profits.
Talk to you soon, everybody.